Hi, welcome to the program. I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching Sit Down. Absolute pleasure to be joined by Issac Wright Jr., lawyer, the guy who inspired this show for life.
Yes.
How's everything going? Nice to meet you.
Everything's good. Pleasure to meet you.
When I think about your story, it can be cliche, but only in America. I mean, the fact that you had all this happen to you, the show is now inspired based on what you went through. What's it like to kind of process everything that you went through in your life?
I mean, it obviously can be surreal at times, but also when it causes the reflection, it can be pretty emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, even more so because I've never, through this whole process, I never had a chance to really reflect on my own pain. I spent so much time fighting that I didn't really take the time to reflect on what I was actually going through. And watching the show and moving through this process with Nicholas being on set and watching everything, it just brought back memories and experiences that were very, very, very emotional for me.
What were the toughest parts for you to kind of relive?
The disappointments. I mean, in the series, you're going to see that he's going to be experiencing some disappointments. I heard no more times, much more times than I heard yes. And so, the disappointments is huge. The biggest thing, the most major, however, is the separation from family, and you'll be seeing that in For Life also. That's a incredible burden to carry. It's incredibly emotional and destructive in a lot of ways to deal with that separation and watch life go on in your absence, to fret for your loved ones. I mean, my daughter was very young. She was 5 years old, and growing up, a little girl growing up without a father can be very challenging for a young lady. And she came up into a time when, she needed her father, because I was there for seven and a half years, and so she began to reach her young teenage years while I was there, and she needed her dad. And so those family and disappointments were the two major emotional areas of that experience.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think it's important also for the context of your story. Can you take us back to life before prison, just where things were at for you, what things were looking like before everything kind of changed for you?
I was married. I was married to Sunshine Wright. She was a member of the Cover Girls, which was a huge group at the time, 3-girl group. I had an independent record label. I had pretty good artists. I mean, one of the artists was on, her name was LaShawn. She was on Doing It. She was the girl that did Doing It with LL Cool J's. I forgot the name of his album, but I know the song was Doing It. Doing It is a huge...
in some big circles here at this point, yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually on top of the world when this happened, and like a lot of people did back then, especially in the industry, they made a few dollars. They left New York, the city area, and they moved out to Westchester, or they moved to New Jersey. I moved to New Jersey, and not too long after I moved to New Jersey, I was doing life in prison.
So what do the days look like in between there? Like, how did it go from you're on the top of the world to you're in prison?
I moved, I mean, there was a prosecutor that had already been doing things that were not in line with the law.
Like what?
There were people he were investigating and arresting and ordering destructions of police reports. He was targeting innocent people with wealth, and through the use of informants, making arrests and seizing property for forfeiture for his own gain. He was using forfeiture assets to enrich his office. He skimmed money from those assets to enrich himself. I think at some point the expense accounts on the detectives' credit cards in the office was attached to the forfeiture.
Wow.
And so instead of turning the forfeiture over to the state, he used it to his own gain. That gave him incentive to do, you know, to do a lot of wrong things, to operate outside of the law with the inherent power that a prosecutor has, and you know, especially a head prosecutor. That's what he was. He wasn't an assistant. You know, he was the chief law enforcement officer in that county. And you know, just for the record, that a head prosecutor is a law enforcement officer. Most people don't know that.
Right. It's important to say that. Yeah.
But they are the chief law enforcement officer in the county that they operate in. There was incidents where he owned a gas station with a brother of one of his detectives. They owned it together. He was stealing from the brother, and at one point he was trying to get rebates from the owner of the owner of the rig who was delivering gas to his station. He didn't sell enough gas to get the rebates, and so when the rig owner refused to give him rebates, he threatened to plant cocaine in his rig, you know, in order to take his rig into basically ruin him. I mean, this is what he did with his power. And so when I moved to New Jersey, I moved in to a situation that had been percolating like that for a very long time.